Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Little Fella Sports Podcast. And here we are today. We are to discuss about the India-England T20 series commencing this Friday. Of course, I've got Gurkeerat with me. So first things first, welcome to the show, Gurkeerat.
Thank you, Anirudh. Good to be here. Always good to, always happy and good to discuss cricket, regardless of the format it is. I think now we can say that we've probably moved to the more modern format. Some people say that it's not the format which is essentially cricket. But if you ask me that, for someone who loves to analyze the game, T20 cricket is a world full of possibilities because the
I
shorter
agree
the
with you.
format, the shorter it is to sort of overcome the quality. Because in Test cricket, the team that is more skilled is going to come out on top regardless of the tactics you might play, and regardless of how right your tactics might be and or sound it may be. But because it is a 5 day game, the quality is going to reign supreme. In T20s, tactics can actually sort of in some way
No,
cover up for the lack of quality, which is why I love this format.
I completely agree with you. And you mentioned about endless possibilities of discussion in terms of points of discussion, where we as fans, obviously we're not involved on the other side of the game, but we as fans have a lot more to analyze, dissect, and look into from an outside perspective, and obviously have our own opinions and thoughts as well. So I completely agree in that way. So guys, before we get into the show, please do like, share, subscribe to the channel. We are close. We're climbing and we're hitting close to 400 subscribers. So please like, share, subscribe to the channel. It'll give us a lot of motivation, and obviously we thank for all your support. So getting into the T20 series, obviously, I mean, there's a lot of talk on both sides, both India and England. With England, first of all, there has obviously been a lot of talk about the fact that they rested some players, sent some players back home. Understandably, I completely agree in terms of giving people mental breaks, because quarantine and the bubble is not an easy place to live at all. And I can understand from that perspective. But there's the thought that they could have played the entire Test series and been rested for the T20 series. But obviously, England completely believe that they need these five T20s to kind of finalize a few spots in their team and use this as a big build up for the World T20, which is obviously happening in India later this year. So, from an England perspective, obviously they're considering this very seriously, and they're pretty much full strength. I can't think of anyone who's really missing out in terms of their squad. When it comes to India, also India full strength in terms of availability. Obviously, Ravindra Jadeja is still injured, hence he's not available, and Jasprit Bumrah is not available due to personal reasons. So, but apart from that, India are also at pretty much full strength. You could argue in terms of selection whether they're really at full strength, but India picked whoever is available, they picked. So in terms of that, you can say that India are also at full strength. It definitely promises to be a very, very good series. So first things first, Gurkeerat. Obviously we spoke about the fact that the Test series was an outstanding series. We had a lot of fun, and India qualifying for the World Test Championship was a great thing from an Indian fan perspective. But this series is very important because, from my perspective, I believe that India's T20 game is definitely under more questions than what we do in Test cricket. I believe that we have a way of playing in Test cricket, and that can work, and we are very successful, and that's obviously shown in terms of results in the last 4 or 5 years. But in T20s, it's definitely a problem. Since 2007, we haven't, the first inaugural edition, we haven't made a final. And the semi-final, for example, it's obviously happened in 2016. We got beaten because we did not know to play the T20 way. So in and even after that, I haven't seen enough to suggest that India have really learned from that. So as a build up to the World T20, how important is the series for India first, and of course for England as well, in your perspective?
Okay, so one thing, just like to correct you, we did make the final in 2014 in Bangladesh where we lost to Sri Lanka. But apart from that, I agree with you that we've not really nailed this format, and we are definitely a far superior test side than what we are as a T20 team. Uh, but the thing is, what sort of saves India and what enables India to always reach the last four is that the other teams that play T20 are also pretty bad, and they're not able to break the shackles of the traditional game that comes in by playing a lot of T20, by playing a lot of Test cricket and ODI cricket. So the shackles that you need to break to be successful in T20 cricket is not being done a lot by other countries also. People are still treating it as a shortened ODI game. It is not. It is definitely not a shortened ODI game. Neither is an ODI a longish T20 game. I feel both of them have their different ebbs and flows, and both the formats need to be played accordingly. And you asked as to how important it is going to be for both the sides. It is definitely very important because apart from West Indies, I think England is another one side that actually bats, bats like they have nothing to lose in the T20 format, and they're definitely going to pose a much greater challenge to India as opposed to what they did in Test matches. Uh, Coming to what you said about the rotation policy and everything, I said it previously as well. I don't think England lost because of the rotation policy, because there has not been a single player who you can name who would have made a difference in the result in the score line. We know Moeen Ali wasn't available for the first test or didn't play, but we saw what he did in the second test. A lot of people were questioning that Dom Bess, that England didn't play the right 11 in the third test match. They should have played Dom Bess, but Dom Bess wasn't really effective in the fourth test match. Anyway, if you see the T20s squad and the test squad, apart from say a Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer, and Johnny Bairstow, I don't think Jofra Archer is available, and say a Mark Wood. Apart from these four players, uh, who is the other player who plays both the formats? Josh Butler has always had questions over his test side anyway because of his batting record. So there wouldn't have been a much difference anyway if even if they had fielded their full strength squad, because England recognize the need to have different teams for different formats and they are building it that way. So I don't think rotation the prioritization of T20s has much to do with the result. I think it's fair why they are prioritizing T20s because it is the year of T20 World Cup. Also, the World Test Championship doesn't have that amount of prestige attached to it yet. It is very similar to how India had treated the World T20 in 2007 because it didn't have the prestige attached to it. Had India, been very serious about it, we would have definitely seen all three of Ganguly, Dravid, and Sachin playing it. So I think it's fair to some extent. uh, I don't have any problems as such. Like I said, I don't think rotation would have changed much. Apart from this, if you want to sort of talk about the Indian squad, uh, yeah, apart from Jadeja and Bumrah because he's missing it for personal reasons. Bumrah is anyway a given in the T20 side. Jadeja has also shown his value with the bat. It's unfortunate that he only played one ODI, one T20 in
Australia.
Australia in Australia. But in the ODIs that he played and the IPL before that, he showed a massive improvement with the bat. So his bowling has had a downfall. So India would like to sort of see who can replace Jadeja. Whether it can be Akshar Patel in this format or not, that would remain to be seen.
I agree with what you've said so far in terms of England. Even if they had kept the likes of Butler, Moeen Ali, all those guys behind, I don't think it would have really affected the result at all. As you said, India is just too strong in this format in terms of in our conditions at least, and I'm pretty sure the result wouldn't have changed a lot at all. And in terms of India, I completely agree with you again. Jadeja's improvement in the last 12 to 18 months with the bat has been very, very impressive to see. I have to be honest, sometime in the last 12 to 14 months, I did question Jadeja's place, and I genuinely felt that he needed to have a little more pressure than he had. People thought he's a three-dimensional cricketer, but I felt that his batting isn't really up to scratch for a number seven, and his bowling also doesn't offer value in terms of him being very easy to get away by top. I mean, if someone tries to really tonk him, it's pretty easy because of the pace he bowls at. So I felt that Jadeja's value in the side could be questioned, but in terms of his improvements in the last 12 to 14 months, especially in the IPL and what we saw in Australia, I think there was a market difference, and he deserves credit for that because he's definitely worked on it. It doesn't come overnight. So in terms of that, I think it's very good for India. And as you mentioned, Jasprit Bumrah, whenever he's available, he'll be back and ready, and India need him as fit and as available as possible. And now we'll
You're
obviously be,
absolutely
yeah,
just one point. You're absolutely right on the point that he wasn't the three-dimensional cricketer in T20s because his T20 has strike rate before the IPL, and I don't think it would have changed much because he only played one T20. His T20 international strike rate was 101 for someone who bats at number 8. That is too low. I think it's not acceptable for anyone who even bats at number 11. You cannot be striking at at a strike rate of 101. As far as his bowling is concerned, what has happened is that the strength that he has in test matches, that he is able to repeat the same ball again and again and place it in the same spot, that is a disadvantage in T20s because batsmen can line you up. And you see that when the pitches in IPL were true and were good for batting, he went for runs. So the first three games that Chennai played, he went for over 40. And when he got hit for three sixes by Akshar Patel, you knew that his bowling has taken a
That was
downfall.
the most important thing. It wasn't just elite batsmen who took him down. It was even guys, with all due respect, who you would say aren't really power players in terms of trying to take any bowler down. Even those guys really found it easy to get Jadeja off. And he wasn't really a wicket taking threat here. Maybe here and there, if someone tried to take him down, he may have got a wicket here and there. But largely, he wasn't a threat in terms of him being a bank in 4 overs. And CSK, you've seen so many times the last 2-3 years, especially since CSK returned to the fold, Dhoni hasn't used Jadeja for the entire quarter of 4 overs a lot of times. I'm pretty sure it must be less than 5 or 6 in the last 2 seasons, because Jadeja's bowling is really dropped off. Even Dhoni, who really trusts him a lot, of course, as a cricketer, there's no question about that. But even he realized that Jadeja as a 4 over bowler is a little bit questionable. So in terms of that, obviously Jadeja's bowling has become a little stale in T20. He may have to find another gear. I don't know how that happens because his style of bowling is in such a way, but I'm pretty sure he's got to find a way to improve his bowling in that way.
Another thing why Jadeja's bowling in the IPL didn't get exposed that much was Chennai used to play a lot of matches at Chepauk. When you play at Chepauk, see, Chepauk has two advantages. One, the square boundary is relatively bigger than what you get at other Indian grounds. It is definitely bigger than the boundary at Eden, Kolkata, Eden, Wankhede, and Kotla for sure. Maybe
And
one side
Chinaswamy.
is maybe yeah. I was coming to that. So it is larger than four grounds for sure, easily. Then when you're bowling in the second innings and the pitch is anyway slow, he can actually his test match length can actually come into play because the surface starts to grip. But in UAE, that didn't happen. And that gave all the other batsmen that more extra license to go after him because the ball wasn't doing much and he wasn't varying his pace. So if he has to succeed in T20, he probably has to take a leaf out of Akshar Patel's book, maybe where he has to mix up the pace a lot more because Akshar has been doing that for 2 seasons in the IPL now. So let's hope he works on it, or if he doesn't, he makes the side just as a proper number six or a number seven who can, if not more than be able to bowl 2 overs with 2 overs being bowled by Pandya somewhere down the line, and the other bowlers can sort of cover the remaining 16 overs.
I think that's India's best case scenario. Hardik coming in at 6 and Jadeja coming in at 7, and those guys combining for 4 overs. I don't think India will drop Jadeja in any shape or form unless we see Washington Sundar really, I mean, go about another level in terms of power hitting. I don't see Jadeja not making the side at all. So I think Jadeja and Hardik together will have to combine for 4 overs, and it's good news that Hardik has started to bowl full tilt, at least in nets. I don't know how it will work in the games, whether he'll be given the responsibility of bowling 4 overs in the series. That's something to be seen, but I think that's obviously a good thing for India. Now coming over to the squads, I'll just get the squads up right now. So this is India's squad. So obviously, we've already mentioned a couple of guys missing out in terms of Jasprit Bumrah and Ravindra Jadeja missing out. So from this Gurkirat, the major selection conundrums are clearly at a number of spots. First, we've got the opening slot. Rohit Sharma's numbers in the IPL aren't the greatest in the last few years, despite the fact that he's played at Wankhede. But let's be real, he's not. His place is not under question. So the other question is obviously between Rahul and Shikhar Dhawan. KL Rahul is arguably my favorite player, but I have to admit that his batting performances in the last IPL left a lot to be desired, and his approach was, to be honest, it wasn't great to see at all. I mean, there were so many times where he could have gone another gear, he did not. So when it comes to this side of this debate, what what do you make of this? I personally still believe that Rahul should continue to be first choice opener because of Shikhar Dhawan. I don't trust Shikhar Dhawan honestly in T20 cricket. But what do you make of that particular conundrum in terms of these two guys jostling for one spot?
Like you said, if there is apart from these three players, if there is someone who should be a lot more susceptible to losing his spot, that should be Rohit Sharma because he's had pretty average IPLs. If you look at the last 2 3 years, but his image and his record as a ODI player is such that he will definitely be there in the squad and in the 11. Uh, I personally thought that the best opener on display in the IPL T20 was Mayank Agarwal. but it's unfortunate that he's been dropped without getting a game in T20s in Australia. Between Shikhar and Rahul, I would have completely agreed with you if we would have been having this conversation, say, 2 years ago, because Shikhar Dhawan in up till 2018, 2019 IPL, was not doing enough. His strike rate was in the 120s, not even 125 on a few occasions. He used to give sort of, you know, score some 20 ball, 25, 27, 28, not play those impact innings. So I would have agreed with you. But if you see the last 2 seasons, he's definitely taken his batting up a notch. He's understood why, with the limited range that he has to ensure that he makes use of the power play a lot more than what he's doing. And we saw that in the last two IPLs where he amassed 500 odd runs in 2020 in 2019 IPL, and then 600 plus runs in the 2020 IPL, and he played a lot of impactful knocks. There was a time in 2020 IPL, especially for the first 6 7 games, you felt that he's not getting it, things are not happening, but then he suddenly took it up a notch higher. When it comes to KL Rahul, I genuinely believe that he has the capability to be India's Joss Butler, without a doubt. There is no, when it comes to skill set, I think he's head and shoulders above both Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan, because we see Rohit Sharma get sort of stuck with spin. Definitely, if you bowl wrist spin or left arm spin to him early on, he definitely struggles to sort of hit it away straight out. Shikhar sometimes struggles with extra space, can be cramped up. But when it comes to KL, there is no real weakness. He plays spin very comfortably. He can play any sort of spinner. With pace also, he doesn't have a problem. It's just the mindset, and his mindset and the intent which he batted in the IPL 2020 was very disappointing to see. For I did some research. For if you look at the 13 seasons of IPL, every orange cap winner has had a greater strike rate than him. So it was very disappointing to see that he batted at a strike rate of 129, which is less than 8 runs per over. And there were eight or nine games where his strike rate was lesser than was lesser than Punjab's run rate. So that is why there have been doubts which have been created over his place. If you just go by his T20 I record, it is better than both Shikhar and Rohit's. So I still think that, even though I feel that he should open, but I think the team management is going to trust Dhawan because they used to trust him even when he had not improved in the last 2 years, which he already has. So I think that it is going to be Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan who open. But I would like India to sort of you know, give KL Rahul the role which say an England has have given to a Jason Roy, or what the role that has been given to Evan Lewis by the West Indies team, because KL Rahul definitely has that capability to be India's Joss Butler. Uh, the skill set wise, there is hardly any weakness. So he needs to be told that you don't have to think about anchoring the innings at all. And so far, in New Zealand he didn't do that. In Australia also he scored a 50, but that was a 40 ball 50. So far he hasn't done that. I hope he doesn't do that if he plays. I wouldn't mind, even if he plays ahead of Shikhar or Shikhar plays ahead of him. Or there's also a possibility where all three of them can play, with KL coming in at three and Kohli batting at four. But then what happens is, I'm not sure of how good Kohli can be at number four now, because at number four it is required for you to tonk spinners straight away, and that was something that was missing from Virat Kohli's game in this year's IPL. His strike rate was also 121. So it's a very difficult conundrum as of now, because Shikhar is a senior player, KL has the numbers, a very difficult call. And Rohit has that stature where you can't drop him. He's also probably the vice captain. So it's a very difficult call. If you ask me, at present, both KL and Dhawan are probably ahead of Virat and Rohit when it comes to making a claim, just as players, and on pure numbers, making
Pure
a claim
numbers.
to the 11. But we know that is not how things work. So that's going to be an interesting one. We'll have to see what the team comes up with, come the 12th.
I kind of agree with you in terms of the fact that I don't want to see Shikhar Dhawan, Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul all play together and Virat Kohli coming in at four. I think that spells disaster for India. You'd already spoken about Kohli's numbers in spin. It wasn't just this IPL. I think it's been an issue for the past, say, 14, 18 months, even going back to the 2019 World Cup, I'd say, in terms of him slowing down against spin. I don't know what's really the issue technically. I don't know what he's doing wrong because before he used to be slightly more dominant against spin than he is right now. So in terms of that, it's obviously a big disadvantage. But I personally think KL Rahul will play. I will be very surprised if KL Rahul doesn't play. I think there is no chance that I think there's more of a chance of KL, Shikhar, and Rohit playing together than them dropping KL. I don't think they'll drop KL. I think KL is considered to be one of the senior members of the white ball team right now. He was given vice captaincy in the previous tour as well. I think KL will play no matter what. I personally wouldn't play Dhawan if that's the case, and I completely agree with the fact that KL's batting again for Kings 11 was very, very poor, and you can try to justify it by saying that he is one of those guys where he felt that he had to take the responsibility of carrying Punjab's batting, but that is not something which is really true because they still had enough quality, and he in some ways probably lost a couple of games for them. For example, that game against Rajasthan Royals at Sharjah, I think his batting of 64 or 57, 47, 57 balls probably cost them the game more than it should have. So in terms of that, I think that's definitely a huge conundrum in terms of dropping Shikhar Dhawan. But I still think KL will play. So, I mean, we'll have to see. The other spots, obviously, number 4. In case they do pick one out of KL and Shikhar, who do you think slots in at 4? I assume that Rishabh Pant will play at 5 because I think the form he is in, I don't think he's probable at the moment. But there's obviously a pick between either Shreyas Iyer, Surya Kumar Yadav, or Ishan Kishan even maybe. So who do you think will likely slot in at 4 at the moment?
I think the team is going to start with Shreyas, but he's also on a slightly thin rope because in Australia when he played, he didn't bat at four. He was sent in at five and six. So they obviously realized that Shreyas doesn't have the skill to go hammer and tongs from ball one. See, that is also one problem here that uh, neither Shreyas nor Manish Pandey, who was there in the squad, and I'm not sure even Surya Kumar Yadav. They are not the players who can bat below three. With Surya Kumar Yadav, you can still take that chance because his game against spin is supreme. I've not seen many players dominate. Yuzvendra Chahal the way he did, especially right-handed batsmen. Right-handed batsmen definitely struggle against Yuzvendra Chahal because he takes the ball away. If you look back at that game which he won for Mumbai against RCB, uh, Mumbai had actually sent in two left-handers to attack Chahal, and both of them actually got out to Chahal, and one of them was Ishan Kishan. I think the other was Saurav Tiwari, or maybe Quinton de Kock. I am not sure of that. And this guy scored 20 runs off 12 balls of Yuzvendra Chahal and took 20 runs off him. He hit him for a 6 over covers and then swept him for a six. So Surya Kumar Yadav, now that he's been drafted in the squad, will definitely get a look in at some point of time. And you're right. I think Rishabh Pant will also walk in at five with Hardik Pandya at six. Maybe at seven they will play Washington Sundar, and at eight would be an Akshar Patel, and nine you could say Yuzvendra Chahal and then two pacers, or maybe they want to play three pacers. I don't know. If India do play three spinners and two frontline pacers, there's a possibility that Hardik Pandya would have started bowling again because playing only two pacers in a T20 game can also be a worry when spinners are being taken down because you really can't bowl spin at death. So if India do play two pacers, it will sort of also say a lot about how and how Hardik is bowling and how confident do they feel about Hardik's bowling. Coming to the initial debate, of who's going to be between KL and Shikhar, there's another thing which Shikhar brings to the table, which KL unfortunately doesn't, not for his fault, is that Shikhar is a left-hander. So when Shikhar is a left-hander and he's batting, it sort of complements Rohit because a left-arm spinner cannot be bowled at him, or a leg spinner. At least that is what captains thinks, and that is how conventionally teams think. For all we know, and this is a possibility, that KL might average better and strike at a better rate than what Shikhar does against right-arm wrist spin. But these are the things that also sort of sometimes go into making a call as to who's going to be playing in the 11. Because if you see the top six or top seven, if there is no Shikhar Dhawan, then there is only one left-hander in the squad, which is Rishabh Pant. And India did struggle in Australia and gave wickets to Swepson because there was no left-hander. India's top six or top seven in Australia was uh, Shikhar, KL, Virat, Shreyas, Manish, Hardik, and then at seven there was no Jadeja. There was probably I think Shardul, or if I'm not wrong, there was some other all-rounder. So India had a top seven of all right-handed batsmen. So it made it all the more easier for Australia to tie them down.
Yeah, I think in terms of the fact that India filled in with right-handers, it's obviously not ideal. I think that's definitely a problem for India, and that's why it was very imperative that Rishabh Pant was gotten back into the fold as soon as possible, and thankfully they've done that. So I expect him to play at five, and I completely agree with your points about Yadav's range against spin. The fact that he took down someone like Yuzvendra Chahal, who's arguably India's best T20 spinner at the moment, I think that shows his quality, and he shows that intent which someone like Virat Kohli at the start of the innings does not show, and I think that's a huge advantage. But I agree with the fact that I believe Shreyas Iyer will get the first crack, and also, but I think the fact that they've got both Ishan and Surya into the squad suggests that they will get a game some point in the series. But I think to start with, definitely Shreyas will be given the first go. And the number 7 spot, yeah, I think Washington will initially play because of the fact that he's done well for India with the ball in T20s before, and I think Kohli trusts him in that way. And as you mentioned again, depending on Hardik's fitness, India may go in with 3 pacers or stick with 2 spacers and go in with 3 frontline spinners. Again, that's dependent on fitness. If India pick 3 pacers, who do you think will play? I think Bhuvneshwar and Natarajan are almost certainties because of the way Natarajan is obviously bowled and the fact that Bhuvneshwar Kumar is India's very senior bowler. Who do you think will take the third seamer spot? It's probably between Thakur or Deepak Chahar. I don't think Saini is in contention, to be honest. That's why.
See, I'd ideally want Saini to play. The reason I say that because he's the only express pacer in the squad. He's the only one who can bowl upwards of 140 and
I
can
agree
bowl the
with you
hard dense
actually.
and trouble the batsman. So I would I there's another thing that I actually so I am a big fan of bowlers who can bowl at high pace because I genuinely believe in that saying which has come up from Pakistan cricket that pace is pace, yeah. Because we saw that with Riley Meredith as well in the New Zealand T20s. He missed his lengths on a few occasions, but
But he
because
was
he
so
was so
quick.
fast and so good, batsmen didn't have enough time to make use of it, and that was the case with Navdeep Saini as well in the first half of the IPL. There are not a lot of bowlers who can bowl to the likes of Pollard and Hardik and only give 7 or 8 runs in the super over. So Saini definitely has that skill. I would like him to play because he's going to learn a lot from say the likes of Bhuvneshwar Kumar, and I'm sure T Natarajan has also learned from him while bowling with him in the nets. But I have a feeling that India is going to play Shardul Thakur for
Shardul
batting
Thakur
depth.
for his batting, exactly, because they're missing Jadeja. I think they'll feel that Washington Sundar does not offer that power at number 7.
Not that, not that, because the other thing is, if Jadeja would have been playing, then Sundar would have been 8. But now Sundar is going to play at 7, and then Shardul Thakur would be at 8. So your other 3 bowlers won't bowl. But
They
I would
can't bat
definitely
neither.
like
Yeah, Chahal can't bat,
Bhuvneshwar can
Natarajan
bat,
can't
but
bat.
it's been a long time that he's been a part of the setup, so you can't really trust him. So and if Shardul plays, it wouldn't be a bad call because he's actually worked on his bowling too. We saw in the last IPL, everybody used to think that if he's going to bowl at depth for Chennai, he's going to go for runs. But he actually did well, and I think one of the reasons for doing that was one, he's worked on his pace. Two, he stopped bowling those cutters of his, those knuckle balls.
And the knuckle
He
ball.
was, yeah, he was relying a lot more on bowling back of length and bowling fuller and wide Yorkers. So it wouldn't be the worst call if he plays, but I don't see Deepak Chahar playing now that Bhuvneshwar is back. He will be
I
in the
hope he
squad.
doesn't either. If
He,
Bhuvneshwar
he
plays,
he's
Deepak Chahar shouldn't play.
yeah he will be in the squad. And he might get in a look in later, but I sort of see India's first 11 to be Shikhar, Rohit, Virat, Shreyas, Rishabh, Hardik, Washington, Shardul, Chahal, Bhuvi, and Natarajan. I
I
see this as
completely
the
agree.
first 11. Sometime
Yeah, I agree with
maybe
you.
around the 30, 20. And also, a lot would depend upon how the results go. if India do
India
win the
wouldn't want
first
to
couple
lose
of
the series badly either.
yeah, if India do win a couple of the first two T20s, we might see some scope of experimenting. But if India lose, then it's going to become very difficult for all the French players. It's going to become very difficult for French players to make a
Yeah.
mark because then the pressure will also increase.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with your first 11, except for the fact that I think KL will play. I'd be very stunned if KL doesn't play. So I think that'll be 11. I think you guys
I
in the
would want
comments,
him to
please
play.
send in
I
what.
would want him to play. I would want him to play, but I just feel that he'll miss the cut. Or if he plays, he could be number three, and Kohli might bat at four. That would mean Shreyas goes out.
I think it's one of those two. I think either KL will play or they will play both. I mean, all three out of KL, Shikhar, and Rohit, and we'll see Kohli coming at four. So I think it'll be one of those two. I'd be stunned if they go with Shreyas Iyer and Shikhar Dhawan playing ahead of KL Rahul. So we'll have to just wait and see how it goes. Guys, in the comments, please send in what you think your predicted and rather your preferred 11s would be. So we'd love to know that. Now, moving on to the England squad, we've actually spoken a lot about the India squad. England have obviously got a very, very strong team. Their score is more or less settled. There's just a couple of spots to be filled in terms of whether they, for example, they want to see Stokes opening or not. Because at least in the subcontinent, I personally believe Stokes is best used at the top or at worst number three. So because I think he really slows down against spin when he comes in, they say 14th, 15th over and he struggles to get going. So in terms of that, it'll be interesting to see what England do with Stokes. And in terms of the top order, I think apart from that, they'd likely play Butler along with either Bairstow or Jason Roy. I think because of the fact that Stokes wasn't in the South Africa tour, but Bairstow did well at number 4. We may even see Stokes coming in at 3 and Bairstow being pushed up to the top of the order. What do you think happens with the top 4? Because Butler is definitely playing. I think Bairstow is also definitely playing. And I think Stokes is also definitely playing. It's one out of Jason Roy, David Malan. Who do you think makes the cut?
I think Stokes might miss it because Butler, Roy, and Bairstow will play. But if the pitches are not going to turn, Roy is going to have a party also. So England have trusted David Milan, and he's sort of delivered on that trust. So I think it's going to be Roy, Butler, David Milan, Johnny Bairstow. Actually, it won't be it won't be the worst idea if Bairstow open and Butler comes in at four, because Butler also has all the skills to bat in the middle order. He's done well. He's done well. And similar, I was going to suggest something similar for India as well. That if KL and Shikhar both play, it won't be the worst idea if KL bats at four and Kohli bats at three, because KL does have the game to be successful at four. Anyway, moving on to England, I see, I think Ben Stokes might miss the cut because there is Sam Billings as well. And if there is Sam Curran who also plays, then they might not need him to bowl also. Liam Livingstone is also a good prospect, so you may never know which way they might go and take a call, because at number 5 or number 6,
Morgan will
maybe
play, obviously.
maybe a Sam Curran or a Tom Curran is a better pick than Ben Stokes or even a Moeen Ali. If you have to take down spin, then Moeen Ali can be a better matchup than Josh but than Ben Stokes. So it would be interesting to see. And let's not forget there is Owen Morgan too. So there's not much space in that batting lineup anyway, which is why I said that someone like a Ben Stokes has to bowl a lot more for England to make himself invaluable for that side. So
I think
you know it could be Roy Butler, Malan, Bairstow, Morgan, Billings, Moeen Ali, then four bowlers in Archer, Mark Wood, uh, Adil Rashid, and Chris Jordan maybe.
I think Jordan will play. I think Jofra Archer
Yeah.
is slightly doubtful, and I think they'll probably want someone who is considered to be a very decent depth bowler. I'm not too convinced about his credentials, especially at very high level. But then I think we'll see Jordan get the cut, especially if Jofra Archer misses out. So England's team obviously is very strong. You could see some very, very talented and very, very good players miss out also, just like with India. So it definitely promised to be a great series in that front. So I mean, we're all hoping that I hope the pitches are really good. We didn't I don't know what to expect. There's a whole square for the Ahmedabad wicket. We don't know which pitch they're going to choose for, but I just hope that it's similar to what we saw in the India West Indies series in the back end of 2019. I think that series was genuinely wonderful to see. I hope something similar is like that, because I want to see India's batting, especially batting first, take on the initiative and post big scores. Because I think batting second, at least you have to sometimes, if you're saying 200, for example, you have to go from ball one. But when batting first, I think India tend to be a lot more conservative usually. So I hope we don't see that, and we see India going full throttle, because I mean at the moment there's nothing to lose, right? You're just trying to build a team and hopefully get to a stage where you can compete and win those semis and finals, because you expect India to reach there. It's just those one moment here and there where India have fallen short recently, and hopefully things work out well in that way. So finally, to the last part of the show, players to watch out for. I want you to give me, yeah, tell me.
That is where the problem also lies for the management. Sometimes the management has tried to do something which might be, a good ploy, but how a ploy is good or bad, or how an experiment is good or bad, cannot be determined from one game only. That is where they've not been, patient enough. Sometimes they've just tried something for one game. If you look back at the India Australia series, the ODI series, the 3 match series, Kohli said that he will bat at 4. One game he batted at 4, and then he was back to number 3. So you cannot use that one game as an example, because a single event can be an exception or an aberration in any way. Whether, it could have been the worst move, but still one game is not enough to sort of take that call. Or it could have been the best move, and still one game is not enough to take that call. So that is where they have to be, more convinced as to what they are trying to do. And that is where the real test lies for them. As far as the pitches is concerned, I think the pitch is going to be very similar to what it was in the fourth test. If the pitches are anywhere close to the fourth test, then we will see good matches, because then we will see a lot of horizontal bat shots, because the bounce is going to be there. There is going
Ball
to be
came on
pace.
nicely.
Yeah, which could also mean that Shreyas Iyer might find himself in some sort of a trouble, because we've seen his game against pace being
He's lucky that
exposed to
Jofra
a
isn't
certain
playing.
extent.
He's probably
No,
lucky
but
that
even
Jofra
even
isn't.
without that, there is Mark Wood. Mark Wood, who can bowl shot at him and trouble him. And if the pitches have bounce, you really don't need a 140 kind of a bowler
Even
to
Tom
really
Curran
try.
could actually cause some
Yeah,
issues with that
no,
extra.
Tom Curran may not because he relies on slower ones. But even a
He's
Jordan
got a
can
juice
at
to
any
Jordan.
point of time.
Jordan can,
Yeah,
yeah.
even a Jordan can, or a Reece Topley. So if the pitch, I would actually like pitches to have a certain amount of bounce to sort of see how they play out.
Definitely. So coming over to the players to watch out for, I want you to pick one batsman and one bowler from each side. So if you had to pick one, who would it be from each side?
One for India, one player to watch out for at this moment has to be Rishabh Pant. Everyone's very happy that he's back. I'd actually want to watch out for KL Rahul also, because I'm sure he knows that why that with Shikhar back in the with Rohit back in the squad, there's a possibility that he may lose his opening spot, and he wouldn't want to. So I'm sure that he's going to try and bat to his full capability and full quality, and showcase why he's rated so highly, and rightly so. So these two players, are going to be the ones to watch out for. Indian fans would also like Bhuvi to do well, because if Bhuvi is able to nail those Yorkers and save runs at the death, it will give Virat Kohli
Then
and
a
the management
bowling
a
attack of
lot of
Bhuvi,
confidence.
Bumrah, and Natarajan looks good. Sounds good, at least on
Yeah,
paper.
yeah, so that would be nice to see. So these are the three players that I would like to watch out for. Choosing one is obviously very difficult. When it comes to
England.
England, of course, you Josh Butler is my personal favorite. I find him extremely exciting. So he's always going to be the one to watch out for when England play T20s. Then really excited to watch Sam Billings. He will sort of showcase that why teams were why he should have probably gone for more than just 2 CR in the IPL auctions. Because he's played for Delhi before, he's played for Chennai before, played only one game. He also plays spin well, so he would probably like to raise his stocks for the next IPL. Then Jason Roy would probably like to do well and bury the sort of narrative that goes against him. Okay, that he can't play spin, because
Place.
if he has a good IPL, if he has a good 5 match series, then teams would be sort of convinced that okay, he's played spin well. So these are the three players that I'd like to watch out for. And yeah, but in terms of bowlers, I find Mark Wood very exciting because he's a similar bowler to Navdeep Saini, can crank it up really well. So these are the players that I'm genuinely looking forward to.
Fine enough. For India, I think I agree with KL and Rishabh. I'm very excited to see what they do. I'm very excited to see how KL, what approach he takes. I really hope we see the KL from 2018. I was very excited to see every time I watched him in 2018 IPL. I was very excited to watch him bat. I hope we see some glimpse of that in terms of that. And I hope Rishabh. I mean, Rishab's a wonderful T20 player. I think he's a world class T20 batsman. So I think I just hope that he finds the correct method to go about when it comes to India, because he's found that for Delhi Capitals over a number of seasons now. So I think I hope that he does well also. When it comes to the bowlers, I'm really excited to see how Yuzvendra Chahal does, because I think Chahal recently has gone down a little bit. I think he's been taken down for runs a little bit. I know it's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, but I still want him to properly nail that position and really be that gun who Virat Kohli can rely on game after game. So I'm very excited to see how Chahal does, because this batting lineup is definitely going to test Chahal. I know they don't have too many left-handers, but even then, I think they've got enough intent kind of players who will try to take him down. So I'm excited to see how Chahal does. And when it comes to England, I'm excited to see how Stokes does, because I don't know which role he's going to play, whether it's going to be at the top, whether in the middle, and if it's in the middle, how he takes down spin. So it'll be interesting to see how Stokes does. And when it comes to bowler, in the absence of Archer, yeah, Mark Wood's always a name which excites you because of the fact that he's got raw pace and he can trouble any batsman with that pace. So it definitely is going to be a very exciting series. So quick prediction from you, Gurkirat, if you had to give a quick number in terms of what you expect this 5 match series to go like.
Very tough one to call, but you'd have to sort of give it to England, and maybe sort of give 3-2 to England. But
I was
a
just
lot
about
would
to say
depend
3
upon
to England as well.
the tosses. I think uh, because if India if England win the toss, they both the teams, if they win the toss, they would like to bowl first. India definitely more so are affected if they bat first, because when they're batting first, they're never really sure as to what is going to be enough. When they're batting second, they still have an idea. So you'd have to give it to England for 3-2 at the start. One thing that you spoke of regarding Yuzvendra Chahal, I know that he's not taken that many wickets. Someone said that he's taken some 7 odd wickets in 10 games. Uh, in Australia, he did well. I think he lost out on a lot of wickets in New Zealand because we fielded horribly. A lot of catches went down of his bowling. He could have, finished with figures of 2 for 20 in 4 overs, and he went for 4 for 32 because catches kept getting dropped and they went for six. So, I don't think there's a lot to worry about Yuzvendra Chahal. He's probably, uh, in this year's IPL, if I remember it correctly, I think in 5 or 6 games he took a wicket in his very first over. So he's definitely, without a doubt, the best T20 spinner that India has produced. I think at present he's second to Rashid, if not at par, because I sort of always find it difficult who to rate higher. I just think that Rashid's skill set sort of helps him a little bit more because of his pace, because he's able to bowl at a greater pace than Chahal. Sometimes he's difficult to negotiate with, but we have seen that how in the BBL he goes for runs. So always sort of stuck between who's the better one, whether it is Rashid or Chahal. But at the moment, I feel Rashid's the better one and Chahal's number two. So I don't have any worries regarding Yuzvendra Chahal.
It wasn't necessarily a worry. I just wanted him to see. I wanted to see him do consistently well for India. I know he's done very well for India. I just wanted to ensure that against a side like England, it will definitely be a challenge, and I'm excited to see how he takes on that challenge.
He
So,
will
in terms
definitely
of
be
predictions,
tested
I was
for
of a,
sure.
yeah.
For sure, he will be
In
tested.
terms of prediction, I wanted to say 3 to England, but now that you've told 3 to England, I'd probably say 3 to India, with probably a Kohli masterclass during some point, a KL Rahul masterclass in one point, and probably a Rishabh Pant masterclass at one point. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. So guys, please do like, share, subscribe to the channel. Thanks, Sir Gurkit. It's been a very in-depth show. I've enjoyed the show. We've had slight disagreements about certain things, but I've really enjoyed the debate. And I hope you guys who are watching, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show as well. So please do like, share, subscribe to the channel. And thanks, Sir Gurkit. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Anirudh.